What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. New video. Today's video is going to be regarding taggers and what their prison experience could be like. I get asked about how out-of-staters would be treated out here, how residents would be treated out here, how Puerto Ricans and Cubans. I get, and it's pretty much the same story for the most part with all groups, right? With all of these different people. I will say this. If you're a resident and you go to the joint, or if you're Puerto Rican, like those things don't matter. I have seen where dudes that were taggers hit the joint. They're going to get clowned a little bit more. People are going to clown them. Now, as with anybody, when you're behind those walls, once you have earned a reputation, in prison, a man's reputation will always precede him. And so once you've earned a certain level of respect, your background on the streets doesn't even matter. I personally, in prison it didn't matter, but on the streets, I felt taggers were the most disrespectful people. And I'll tell you why. When I paroled in January of 1993, I saw tagging, right? And Santa Barbara, we never really had tagging. It was like graffiti, like as far as gang banging, you know, like the barrios would spray paint and stuff, but like tagging stuff, you didn't really see that. And so when I got out in 93, I did see some tagging in my neighborhood. And back then I was more of a hardliner. And when I saw it, I was like, man, who the fuck wrote that shit? And they were like, oh, those are the taggers that do that. And I was like, they gotta go. And what I didn't know is a lot of these dudes that were doing that, especially in our neighborhood, were the homies' younger brothers, right? So they were like, oh, hey, but you know, them vatos, they're not crossing us out or nothing. I said, listen, if any of our enemigos come and they spray paint on our walls, that's disrespect, right? So why do other people get to come and then they're going to everybody's neighborhood and they're spray painting on anybody's walls? I just felt it was very disrespectful. And I know in the joint, there were other homies that felt like that. But that being said, once you enter the California Department of Corrections, whatever you were representing on the streets is just like a reference point, right? It has zero bearing on how you're going to do your time. Because you're going to do your time the way everybody's going to do their time under whatever faction or umbrella you're under. There are rules and regulations of that faction that you will abide by. You know, when you're in prison, there's, out here in California, I can't speak about any other system, but out here in California, there's basically two types of rules that you're supposed to abide by. The rules of the California Department of Corrections, and then the rules of your faction. And I can tell you right now, everybody in there will tell you right away, fuck the rules of the CDC. Fuck the rules of the California Department of Corrections. Because see, if you break the rules of the California Department of Corrections, maybe you go to Ad Seg for a little while. Maybe you go to the SHU. Maybe you lose some time. You break the rules of your faction, you may lose your life. So you got to keep everything in perspective. And again, a guy can be the biggest tagger in the world, and he hits the yard. Nobody give a fuck about no great graffiti, no spray painting. How fancy you could write. We can't even read that shit. Most gangbangers can't even read that tagging stuff unless they were dabbling in that before they were banging, right? I swear I saw something the other day. I think it was on TikTok, and this dude was spraying, and like the can was spraying spray like I've never seen before. And when he was done, I was like, what the hell did he just write? But so to reiterate, when people want to know if they're, Puerto Rican or they're Cuban or they're not a gang member or something, if you're planning on going to prison, Holmes, out here in California, the bottom line is this: conduct yourself like a man. Treat every man with respect, and you will be treated the same way. If someone disrespects you, then you have to deal with that. If you don't know how you're supposed to deal with it, and there's somebody that's under the same umbrella as you that you trust, you ask them like, hey, look, I'm not trying to start no waves, but I'm not feeling this shit. And that person will tell you what you got to do. But as a man, you should already know what's expected of you and how to do your program. People think that there's a hierarchy in prison based on your affiliation on the streets. There is a hierarchy in prison, but it's not based on your affiliation on the streets. It is based on the work that you do behind those walls, the knowledge that you gain. See, you could have a dude that has whacked 50 dudes behind the walls. But guess what? He's known as somebody that's going to whack the shit out of somebody like that. The more impressive guy is the guy that knows how to use this. This, anybody can do. But the man that can organize, the man that can persuade, the man who can generate income, and on top of all those things, put in work, that's how you get ahead in that world. Not, oh, hey, he's from that barrio. That don't matter. That barrio is that barrio. Who are you? Especially behind those walls. Who are you? What are you willing to do? And how good are you at what you are trying to do? I see these, there's certain dudes and they like to conduct themselves. They like to play pinto. They were never there. They like to assume that they could survive and they would have been, they would have been part of the cream of the crop. And, those of us that were in that world and lived that life and behind those walls, we see these guys on YouTube and we laugh like, check this vato out, eh? The vato would have gotten a wreck like that. Too worried about too many other people. Too much with the fancy, shiny shit. The look. Fuck the look. If you don't have it here, I don't care about anything else. You can't survive in there. And you're dealing with the sharpest of the sharp, believe it or not. Anyhow, that's my video for today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Everybody, please be safe, be smart, and tell the ones you love that you love them, man. I'm out of here.